Howdy folks, welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Tank review time for you today, but a slightly different tank review. This is a review of a tank that isn't in the game yet. I managed to get my hands for a couple of hours on a Wargaming test account which included the AMX 1357. It's a brand new premium French tier 7 light tank. Actually, review is probably too strong a word. You can't play half a dozen games in a tank, most of them utter disasters because, you know, random teams in World of Tanks, and give a proper review of the thing, so think of this more of a preview than anything else, but we should be able to at least give you a general idea of how you can expect this tank to perform, what it can do, what it can't do. The one thing I can't tell you, because this information just hasn't been made available to me yet, is how much this thing's going to cost, but if you were to take a look in the gift shop at something like the AMX CDC, or the STA2, which are tier 8 mediums, they cost around £20, $30. The Dicker Max, which is a tier 6, costs around £13, say $20. So you're probably looking at something between those two. This is not going to be an expensive purchase. But of course, it really doesn't matter how inexpensive a machine is in World of Tanks. If it's a turkey to play, it's always going to be a waste of money, regardless of how cheap it is. So what's the 1357 like? Is it any good? Well, initial impressions are that this is a very, very good little tier 7 light tank. And it's mostly down to the gun. But more on that in a moment. So, quick rundown on the stats, and then we'll start taking a look at what exactly it is that makes this tank stand out from the crowd. So, from the top, 890 hit points, not bad. It's a very, very light machine, has a maximum load limit of 16.45 tons, but the engine is a little on the weedy side. It's only a 250 horsepower engine. It's very quick though. It'll do 61 kilometers per hour and turns blisteringly quickly, 48 degrees per second. The armour, well, it's a light tank, the armour's terrible. 50 at the front, 20 at the side, 15 at the rear of the hull, 40 at the front, 20 at the side and rear of the turret. The turret does turn very quickly, however, 45 degrees per second. This is a great little dogfighting, circle strafing tank. It has a view range of 390 metres and a 750 metre signal range. Or to put all this into some kind of perspective for you, it has the same signal range, it has the same view range, it has the same top speed, it has better armour, it turns faster, and it has 1 degree per second slower turret traverse than the AMX 1375, which is the other tier 7 French light tank. So if past experience on YouTube is anything to go by, all the existing AMX 1375 drivers have probably paused the video by now and are venting their rage in the comments section about Wargaming once again introducing new light tanks into the game that completely outclass the existing light tanks at the same tier that are already in World of Tanks. Well, hold on there, hold your horses. We haven't looked at the gun yet. It is an interesting gun. For a start, it has 8 shots in the magazine rather than the standard 6. It also only takes 1 second to fire each shot off. That's a 1 second reload between shots. Don't forget, you get the first shot for free because it's already loaded. So it only takes 7 seconds to empty that 8-shot magazine. That is very, very good. Unfortunately, well, the penetration isn't that good. In fact, this tank has the worst penetration of any of the tier 7 light tanks in the game. 1375 drivers, rejoice. You no longer drive the tier 7 light tank with the worst penetration in the game. That crown now goes to the AMX 1357. Also, you have a more accurate gun, not by much. The AMX 1357 only has 0.37 accuracy, but you do have the same aiming time of 2.3 seconds, and your 75mm gun does substantially more damage per shot than this 57mm gun. This thing only does 90 damage per shot. It does only take 16 seconds to reload all 8 shots in this magazine, however, which is better than the 18 seconds that it takes a 1375 driver to reload that 75mm ammunition, and from personal experience with a well-trained crew, consumables, and running vents on the tank, you can get that 16-second reload down to 15.03. If your crew also has brothers in arms, you can get that down to below 15 seconds, which is a phenomenally fast reload for 8 shots. There are 2 things, however, that the 1357 doesn't have that the AMX 1375 does, and the first thing is to do with the gun. It's the raw damage output. With 8 shots in the magazine, each doing an average of 90 damage, you have an average damage output in one magazine of 720 damage, which isn't bad. The 1375, on the other hand, with 6 shots, each doing an average of 135 damage, will do 810 damage per magazine, and that's a fairly substantial difference. 1375 drivers will be delighted to hear that, as well as handing over the baton of worst penetration of any Tier 7 light tank to the AMX 1357, they can also hand over the crown of the worst power to weight ratio. Despite the good top speed of 61 km per hour, it only has a 250 horsepower engine, which means the power to weight ratio is just under 17 horsepower per tonne. The 1375 was considered underpowered by Tier 7 light tank standards, and that manages a horsepower per tonne ratio with a top engine of just a hair under 20 horsepower per tonne. All of the other Tier 7 light tanks manage at least 20 horsepower per tonne. The 1357 even has a worse power to weight ratio than a completely stock, unupgraded Aufklärungs Panzer Panther. It's that bad. Well, I say it's that bad. It's bad by comparison to the other Tier 7 light tanks. It doesn't mean it's bad. This is still a mobile little machine. The tank does have issues with steep slopes, as you're going to see in the replay that I have for you, but just getting from point A to point B, it reaches that top speed quickly enough. And despite not having a huge damage output with that 8-shot 57mm magazine, it's still entirely capable of finishing off wounded targets, which is really the speciality of the French autoloaders. Wargaming actually allowed a whole bunch of the EU community contributors to get our hands on the AMX 1357, but we were only given 2-hour windows of opportunity in order to actually play the thing, and in 2 hours the best game that I managed to get was over 1,000 experience on a defeat in a Tier 10 match, so yeah, that wasn't really worth showing. I've had some great moments in this tank, but I never really had a great game, although this is one of the... well, it's going to illustrate just exactly what you can do with the ridiculously quick reload on this 57mm magazine. Down there is an LTTB. Now, I don't really want to shoot at him because that's going to give my position away, and I'm trying to spot from this bush, but what I want to do and what I'm going to have to do are two entirely different things. He's going ham on our VK2801 down there, so I unload. Look at how quickly this thing fires. Just look at that. That is ridiculous. Of course, I know my position's been compromised now. I've got to get the hell out of here. There's a chaffee, and I'm taking fire from the flank. Poor power to weight ratio or not, this tank is not slow in relocating. Now the chaffee's coming for me. He thinks French autoloader, he's just fired his magazine, he's got to be reloading. He's right, but guess what? Doesn't make any difference. 15-second reload. We lost that game, of course. It was a horrible, horrible defeat. So instead what I have for you is a replay from one of the other EU community contributors from Croatia. This is MisterCro, and he had a very, very good game in his AMX 1357. It didn't start off too well. It had all the hallmarks of being another one of those valiant disasters, much like the kind of games I experienced in the 2 hours that I had this tank available. But trust me, it's going to be worth it. And if nothing else, it also illustrates one of the defining features of French autoloader tanks, in that they are more dangerous the longer you can keep them alive. They're not particularly much of a threat in the early stages of a game, particularly tanks like the 1375, the 1357 here, and even the AMX 1390, because they don't actually have that much damage output from their guns. But in the later stages of a match, when targets have taken a few hits and they're suddenly within the I can kill you now range of these autoloaders, these tanks become very, very dangerous indeed. These are not T57 heavies that can duke it out at the start of a match. You've got to try to keep these tanks alive and hope that your team can do enough damage and weaken the enemy team to put yourself in the position where you suddenly become one of the most dangerous tanks on the team. Now, you can see the problems with the power to weight ratio here. It is pretty terrible for a Tier 7 light tank, and you just cannot make this thing get up this incline. There's a T-34-1 here, trying to give him a bit of a push. Bless him. It's a Tier 9 match, by the way. This thing does not get premium matchmaking. Wargaming are doing away with a whole premium matchmaking concept. This thing will get into Tier 10 games. I have had my best game in the AMX 1357 in a Tier 10 match, as you saw from the battle results screen earlier. We did, of course, lose it. 1,000 experience on a defeat in a Tier 7 light tank. Not bad. You're not going to see that in this one. This one's going to be a lot better than that. Obviously I don't have access to the soft stats on the tank. I can't tell you exact figures for things like gun depression and gun elevation. I can tell you that the gun depression does seem to be very good. The gun elevation, on the other hand, is pretty bad. Look at him unloading into this IS-2. Oh, yep, he's definitely seen him. Time to relocate. Other things that I'm not sure about, ground resistance. I suspect it's probably not going to have very good ground resistance. Those are very, very narrow tracks. And yet, still agile enough to get out of the line of fire of that IS-2 once he realised where he was getting shot from. Sees the T-34 up there, switches to APCR, but you're still not going to get through the front of the T-34's turret, even with the APCR ammunition. And with .37 accuracy, it's not accurate enough to snipe for his commander's ash, but the T-34's been forced to back off. Now, I did make a point of stressing that this tank has the worst power-to-weight ratio of any of the Tier 7 light tanks, but that doesn't mean it's bad, it's just bad in comparison to the other Tier 7 light tanks. It's still a fast, nimble, agile, manoeuvrable light tank, as you're going to see here. He's spotted an E75 on low health, and he's going to go for it. Now, he takes a bit of a risk here. The M103 fires, the E75 sees him coming, starts backing up, puts one into him, but that's the only chance he's going to get. He tries scrambling to present his best armour towards the 1357. Both of them are turning their turrets around. They're not going to get a second shot at him, it's just too quick. And of course, turning around like that gave the T-34-1 and the IS-6 the easiest kill possible on the E75. And the M103 still turning his turret around, but he's long gone. This is not a slow tank. Worst power to weight ratio of any of the Tier 7 lights notwithstanding, this thing can still shift. 281 damage done to the E75. Unlucky not to kill him. If just one of those shots that bounced hadn't, he'd already be up by 1 kill. But yeah, the E75's dead, he's not. Now, what about that M103? Here we go. He's just fired. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and he's dead. With a little bit of help from the other flank as well. He wasn't the only one who shot him. That was pretty sweet. It's hard work driving light tanks. I am not a very good light tank driver, and I'm even worse at driving the autoloaders, because as well as the whole part and parcel of I'm in a tank that has absolutely no armour and very little health, you've got the whole, okay, now I have to sit around reloading. Oh, hold on, watch this. Look at it, watch this Waffenträger panic. It's like, what's shooting me so fast? He probably thought he was getting shot at by 2 different tanks, the amount of hits he was taking. He actually cliff dived to get away in his panic. Oh, that's not good. Okay, warp factor 10, Mr. Sulu. Yeah, this thing is not a slow machine, not at all. It does struggle with steep slopes, as you saw earlier on in the video, but, well, if you looked at when he crested the rise to take out the M103, all you have to do is just use what grunt is available in the engine to get up to that top speed of 61 km per hour and let momentum take you over. It's entirely doable. He did it on the M103. Crested the rise, cruised over the other side, parked on his arse, and just filled him full of lead. As I was saying, you know, it is hard work driving light tanks because you don't have a lot of health. You have next to no armour, unless you're in a T-54 lightweight, which is, you know, a special case. And it is very, very easy to kill these things. So add to that the complications of having an autoloader, and I struggle with light tanks. I'm not a very good light tank driver, particularly the autoloaders, because you've got to worry about timing your reload, knowing more so than in other light tanks when it's time to cut your losses and run and get out of there. I'm just not very good at it. I enjoy driving them. I think I may enjoy driving the 1357 more so than others, and I might have to give the 1375 another look, because a 15-second reload, I can handle that. That's nothing. Hell, the KV2 takes longer to reload, and that's not an autoloader. I think I could get used to the AMX 1357. I mean, look at this rate of fire. It's absolutely phenomenal. Look at that. That guy stood no chance. MisterCro's pulled the scores back now. He may only have 2 kills to his name, but they were both tier 9s, the Waffenträger Panzer IV, and he did almost the full health damage to the M103. And he might not have been the one to kill the E75, but he's the one who got the E75 killed. He's made a fantastic contribution to this match. And he is only in a Tier 7, with the worst power to weight ratio of any of the Tier 7 light tanks, and the worst penetration of any of the Tier 7 light tanks. Doesn't seem to matter though, does it? It's still good enough. Am I going to get this tank? Well, I'm probably going to get it because I just collect tanks. Am I going to play this tank? It's hard to say. I do like it. I think it's a very, very good little machine. You know, its obvious weaknesses notwithstanding, it is a capable little tank, but it's a capable little light tank, and being good at light tanks is definitely an acquired skill, and it's the kind of skill that you have to practice. The days when I used to have enough free time to be able to play World of Tanks 2 to 3 or even 4 hours every day are long, long gone, and I just don't have the time available to invest into getting good at driving light tanks again. I'm a pretty terrible light tank driver these days because I just don't drive them often enough. It's easier to drive a heavy tank because you've got the margin for error in a heavy that you don't have in a light tank. Make a mistake in a heavy tank, oh, it's no problem, I've got lots of health, I've got plenty of armor, you can usually get away with it. Make a mistake in a light tank, it's usually game over. It's a very harsh learning process, and the artillery had a choice of 2 directions to face, and he picked the wrong one. Sucks to be him. So that was MisterCro, a very, very good specialist light tank driver, which you'll know if you've ever watched any of his live streams or had a look at the videos that he's put up on YouTube. He's all about driving the light tanks and helping teach people to be better at driving light tanks. I could probably learn a thing or two from him. And, MisterCro, if you're watching this video, I do apologise once again for ruining the win rate that you'd built up on this Wargaming account after I got my hands on it. But anyway, the big question, should you spend real money buying an AMX 1357? I try not to say you should spend money on this tank or you should not spend money on that tank, unless I have a very definite opinion about something. What instead I try to do is show you what the thing can do, show you what it can't do, and then let you make your own decision based on what I've shown you. It's your money, you make the decision. What I would say, however, is that if you already own and play French light autoloaders like the 12T, the 1375 and the 1390, then this tank is going to be a sensible investment to make because it's a premium French autoloading light tank. That means you can take the crew of your existing French light tanks, put them into this thing and basically get your daily double twice a day and use it as a crew training vehicle. It's one of the main reasons why people buy premium tanks. If you do not already drive French autoloaders, however, it's not quite so clear-cut a decision. This is a good tank, but it's not the best Tier 7 light tank out there. There are some very, very good Tier 7 light tanks that you don't have to spend real money on. On the other hand, if you like and are good at driving light tanks, but you haven't tried the French ones yet for some reason, and you don't really want to spend the time it's going to take to grind your way up to Tier 6 and the AMX12T, and then unlock the modules on the AMX12T to actually make the AMX12T any good, well, this is certainly a quick and easy way of finding out whether or not French autoloaders are going to be for you. Unfortunately, what I can't tell you is how much this tank is going to cost and exactly when it's going to be available. As to when it's going to be available, my guess would be very, very soon. It's entirely playable in its current form on the live server using the Wargaming account that we were given access to, and as for how much it's going to cost, well, it's not going to cost a lot, I can tell you that. The Type 62 is the only other existing premium Tier 7 light tank in the game, and that one costs 4,800 gold when it was available. That translates to around about £14. In fact, not even that much. 5,500 gold in the Wargaming EU gift shop will cost you just over £14. So less than £14 would be my guess for the price of the AMX 1357. I do like this tank, and unlike other tanks that I like, TOG 2, I'm looking at you, I love you to bits, but you're terrible. Unlike the TOG 2, the 1357 is actually also a good tank, and it's different enough from the 1375 for there to be a point to having the 1357. But, as always, make up your own mind. It's your money. You're all big boys and girls. I've shown you what the tank can do. I've shown you what the tank can't do. The decision, as always, is yours. I hope you've at least enjoyed the video. As always, folks, take care, and I'll catch you next time.